everybody, it's Stephen and Walter here for another episode of So Chatty. And yeah, this one's going to be not really a demo or tutorial, yet it's kind of a combination of both those, but more about that in a moment because you saw it in the title, EQ8 for Dummies. But before we get there, let's talk about what we've been working on. And I was putting together this bag. It's in the hoop creation. It's by Sweet Pea, and it lives up to Sweet Pea's reputation for instructions that are confusing. This was a bit of a bitch. It started out okay. You made 17 of these squares, and it's a great little scrap buster if you want to use up scraps of fabric for it. And then you sew them together, and all of that was fine. That wasn't any big deal there about that. What was tricky was the way they had you make the bottom of the bag.
Yeah, that looks weird.
Yeah, it's on point. And when you lay out the blocks and sew them together, you have this piece that kind of is in triangles and come down to the bottom. Then you have to take one side and flip it over and match it up, and the other side over, and it's very weird because it doesn't go perfectly straight. It does make sense after you figure it out, and then you sew that together, but then you have to sew the bottom up, and that's the tricky part because you have to align squares. So it's not like the conventional way of squaring up a bottom of a bag because the whole thing's been done on point. And they do have a diagram, they do have an explanation. You have to study it to get it. And even then, I didn't get it perfect, but I ripped it out several times and I finally got it to work. And then you do the same thing with the lining. This is a lined bag. The lining was even more difficult because at least you had the squares on this bag to line things up with. On the lining, all you have is just one piece of fabric that has some points cut into it, and then you have to figure out where those are supposed to line up. So I don't suggest this as a good beginner bag. I don't even suggest it as a bag for experienced people who make in the hoop bags, because this one was very, very difficult. Will I make another one? Oh God, no. No, this one's enough. I had a few other minor little problems, but I was able to, and they weren't problems with the pattern. It was just me sewing the thing. But I managed to fix those up, so they're fine, but it's done. Don't recommend it at all for anybody who wants to do it. So Walter's been working on a new shirt for me.
Yeah, well, I haven't got very far, but I showed it on Sunday, and it's about the same point. But anyway, I've got a hanger now, so it's you can sort of see what it looks like.
It's butterfly fabric, which is very nice. So what do you got left? The collar?
I have the collar. I was working on the collar. I have the collar. I've got the sole sides and the sleeves up. I got a hammer, and I got to put a pocket on it.
No, still a bit of work to do on it.
It's about halfway done.
Yeah, halfway done. Speaking of pockets, if you haven't seen it, Cornelius Quiring has a very interesting video about making plain pockets look a little different. I don't know if I won't try it because I won't try it because I don't sew pockets. I don't sew anything like that. But Walter didn't seem to be too impressed.
Well, I didn't like his pocket, but it actually did, at least it presented itself as if you try and be creative if you want to make a pocket.
And I think that was his point. To show that, you don't just have to have a pocket. You can have some fun with the pocket. So look up Cornelius Quiring and look for his latest video and you'll see what we're talking about. Just thought I'd bring it up since Walter said the word pocket. And that's what made me think of that. Okay, so I am working on another project, and that's a quilt for my sister. And on Idiot Quilter this week, I talked all about the process of picking out the fabric and things like that. And I thought I just got, and I'm going to show it to you shortly, all the fabric that I need for that. Just arrived minutes before we were to record this. And this is a company I've never dealt with before. And there's a couple little surprises in the package as well, which impressed me. But we'll talk about that in a minute. Right now, announcements. Sewing with Stephen, Wednesdays, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. Eastern Time. Link in show notes. You know the drill. All are welcome. And this past week, we had a couple of new people to it, which was nice. One gentleman all the way from England, and he's a brand new quilter, just got started in quilting. And he wrote me a very nice note after his appearance on Sewing with Stephen to say how much he appreciated everybody's help, and he'll be back. So we didn't scare him off. So if you're somebody that's never been to one of our Sewing with Stephen sessions before and you're a little afraid, you don't need to be. We didn't scare him away. Why would it scare you away?
Yeah, actually, I think some people get a little intimidated because, well, first of all, Zoom, and because we do a YouTube channel, I don't know if some people still think that for some reason they'll be broadcast.
Yeah, it's not.
And it's not. It's like you're in a sewing room, a virtual sewing room.
Yeah.
Right.
With other people.
With other people.
Yeah. So try us out. It doesn't cost you anything, so go for it. Okay, so speaking of other things that don't cost you anything, Pop-Up Sew Day coming up. It's Stephen's Birthday Bash Pop-Up Sew Day, Saturday, July the 12th. There'll be stuff coming out about that. Not next week, the week after, with the Zoom link. And this is a special pop-up. They're all special, but this one's an extra special one because there'll be prizes. What they are, I have no idea yet, but there will be prizes. So that's July the 12th, so you may want to save the date for that. Okay, so we've had people ask me to do a tutorial on EQ8, especially after this week where I said that I had designed a quilt of valor and I designed my sister's quilt using EQ8, Electric Quilt 8. I can't do a tutorial with it because I am still learning it. It has a very steep learning curve. It's a very powerful program for designing quilts, and I use it on a need-to-know basis. Now, lately, since I've gotten into a little bit more with writing patterns, I have used it to help me design those. It won't write a pattern for you, wish it did, but it will help you with the design process. It's basically an electronic drawing program that uses computer technology in place of a grid paper and pencil for drawing out a quilt. And it does so much more than just that too. So I got thinking about it today when we're thinking about, well, what are we going to talk about on Sew Chatty? On Sew Chatty. What are we? I don't know. I just finished recording this video you're about to see, and I'm a little muddled. Excuse me. I'm old and have dementia. But anyways, my first thought was, well, we could go over some of the things. I could show it to Walter. He's seen it before, and talk about it from that point of view. Then I thought, nah, that'll probably be boring and cumbersome. So I made a video, which is the majority of today's episode. And I used as my example the quilt I have designed for my sister to show you basically how I went about that using various features in Electric Quilt. So that's what I'm going to put on here in just a second. And when we come back after that, I'm going to show you the fabrics that I finally got for the quilt, for her quilt, and the other little surprises that were in the package. So watch the video. So I've had a couple of people ask me if I could do a tutorial on how to use EQ8. And for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, EQ8 is Electric Quilt 8, version 8. And this is a program that's been around in various versions for quite a few years. And basically, it's a design program for helping you to design a quilt. Now, I'm going to tell you from the onset, I am not an expert. I use it in a limited way. This is a very powerful program. There is a lot of things you can do, and I am not an expert on any of them. I have bought books, and you can buy books that have lessons in them, and they take you through the lessons on how to use this program. And yeah, I never stuck with it. Really, the main reason is because I don't use it all the time. But lately, since I've started to write patterns, I've used it a little bit more. And with each use of it, I get to know something else about the program. So this is not a tutorial. This is sort of an overview, maybe a little bit more than an overview of Electric Quilt 8 and how I use it. Now, if you go and you find other people who are much more experts on this, and you can find many of them on YouTube, some of the things I'm telling you I'm doing are completely different from the way they're doing it, and that's fine. Basically, I use the program on a need to use it if I think it's going to help me with the design process. And to be honest, I'm not really interested in all the buzzers and bells of this program. So having said that, let's jump in and take a look at what EQ8 looks like when you first load it onto your screen. Now, I'm going to tell you something. This program is not a free program. It's a very expensive program. I'm not sure what I paid for it. I think it was probably around $400 at the time. I think it's more expensive than that now. You might be able to get it on sale at a quilt store somewhere, but nevertheless, you're going to find it's very expensive. And it has a lot of other add-on features to it as well, like block sets that you can buy and load into this by certain designers. Those all cost money. They even run webinars and courses, and for using this program. Some of them are in person, some of them are online. And of course, you can purchase the books, as I mentioned before. So there are lots of resources out there that will help you to learn the program if you really want to do a deep dive into it. This will not be a deep dive. Okay, so when you first open up EQ, you have several things that are going to show up on your screen. And if you look here at the top and over to the left bar, way over, you have a whole bunch of things. And I'm not going to pretend I know which each one of these does, because I don't. Two of the ones that we will come back to is this little book with a plus sign and this book with the glasses on it. And these are referred to as sketchbooks. And basically, they're a depository of projects that you can put at various stages into them to call them up later if you want to manipulate them. Now, they do have a Get Started section, and that's what we're seeing here. And it says, welcome, what would you like to do? Well, do you want to design an entire quilt? Do you want to draw a block? Maybe make an original block or something? Do you want to work with fabrics? This one and this one, we're not going to touch that much on. I'll just show you what they look like because I don't use them very often. This is where I usually go when I'm trying to put a quilt together. So I have some choices here under Design Quilts. Design a quilt from scratch. Start with a quick quilt project. That kind of thing is one that's already been done for you, but you can edit it. And then if you were working on something and you saved it and you want to come back to it, you can go to this, Open an Existing Project. We're going to come back to this because I'll show you how that works. We're not going to do anything really with this. We will take a look at this, Design a Quilt from Scratch. Okay, first thing that pops up are some new menu bars. Up here at the top, you have New Quilt, Layout, Borders, Design, Print, and Export. Okay, New Quilt is where you start, and you're going to pick your layout style. Now, in this left-hand box, this is always a very helpful screen. Whatever you are in, there will be explanations here, and you will find this probably very helpful when you're first starting out in EQ8. But for now, I'm just going to leave it at horizontal. But if I clicked on these, maybe I want to do my quilt on point, veritable point, baby blocks they call it, variable blocks, horizontal stripes or strips, vertical strips, one patch, photo patch, custom set, and etc. And there's a library. We'll come back to the library. But let's just go with the most basic, and that's horizontal. And you'll notice that it defaults to 4 squares across, 4 squares down with a border. We can change that to suit our purposes, and we do that by going into Layout. Now, Layout has several things happening here. First of all, it's going to tell us the size of our quilt. Our quilt is square, given the default, and it's 36 inches by 36 inches. So it's just a very small quilt. The number of blocks, horizontal 4, vertical 4. But I can change that number. So let's say I want a quilt that's more rectangular and a little bigger. So I'm going to go 6 across and 8 down. So that changed the dimensions of my quilt up here. This is 54 by 72, and this is the finished size of the quilt, okay? And I can play around with that to get whatever configuration I want. Now, finished block sizes here, the width and the height are 9 by 9, but you can change that. And if you click on this box, keep width and height equal, which you probably would want to do in most cases, then it's just a matter of changing one of these values and the other one's going to change too. So let's make it into a 6-inch finished block. And you can see that it changed both the width and the height. And now my grid has changed. It's gotten a little smaller. The quilt's gotten smaller too, because remember, these were 9-inch squares. So of course, 6 squares across, 9-inch squares, 8 down. It's going to give you a bigger quilt than 6 by 6 blocks. So it changed it to 36 by 48. And this is a good guide, because if you want a very specific size, you will know you can adjust your block sizes, you can adjust the number of blocks to get the size you desire. Now they do have finished size of sashing, and they say include sash border and keep width and height equal. Well, if we include a sash border, nothing happens because we haven't done anything yet. Look here, you see we have 0 and 0. And let's keep the sashing all the same, and let's say we want to put in a 2-inch sashing. So there you go. So we have sashing that runs vertically, and we have sashing that runs horizontal. Now, if I turn off include sash border, then you're going to get this kind of layout. And there means there's no sashing on the edges of these blocks here or at the far side. So it's up to you whether you want sashing there or not. So you can play with that. Once you have your layout figured out, now we can go to either borders or we go to design. So let's go to borders first. Now I can come back to this later if I'm not sure if I want borders or not, or how many. Now it defaults to one outside border, and that's this grayed out area. But if I want to add a second border, I can just click add, and I now have 2 borders. And if I add another one, I can have 3. I can make as many borders as I want. Let's delete one of those borders. So now it includes those borders to show you what a quilt is going to be. Now we have sashing, and we have blocks, and now we have 2 borders. So our quilt's grown to 50 by 66 inches. Down here is how we can change our border style. It defaults to long horizontal. So in other words, the end of your border is at the left and right edges. But I could change that if I wanted to. I can pick a mitered, a corner blocks, long vertical, long horizontal. If I go long vertical, then we have, oh wait, what do we have? That doesn't look like anything changed since I told you about it. Oh, and by the way, it depends on whether you have this selected as border 1 or 2. I had 2 there. Let's go back. Long horizontal, long vertical. There you go. So you see the edges up here just run the other way. I mean, I think most of us probably do our borders side first, then the top and the bottom, but you have the option. I could do a mitered. And there you go. Let's go show you how to do a mitered on that one. And if I want mitered on the border, which I probably would, that's outside of that, I just need to change to the second border and change this to mitered. And there you go. So that's really how you do it. If I want to make the borders bigger, I can. Left, top, right, and bottom. I make sure I select the border I want to deal with. So I want to deal with number 1. And let's say I want to make it 2.5 inches all the way around. So I'll leave left and right checked, top and bottom checked, or in all checked. And I'm just going to change this to 2.5, and everything changed the same, and there we go. Similarly, if I want to create another border, what size I want for my outside border, I make sure I'm on number 2, and all of these I can leave the same. I'm just making it bigger, so let's go to 3.5 inches, and there we go. And our quilt's at 58 inches and 58 by 74. Now, if I want to create a border with blocks in it, and I have never done this, so I'm not sure, this is an experiment. Let's go to Into, and it won't let me do that for some reason, and I don't know why. I can't click on that, but there's probably a reason for it. Anyways, like I said, I've never done it. So, yeah. So I could have all kinds of other borders. I usually just stick to the good old standard long horizontal. I'm just going to go back here to, I'm going to get rid of 2, 1, and I'm going to leave it at 2.5 inches. And it's not going to be mitered. It's going to be horizontal. There we go. Okay, so pretty standard. I'm also going to go, before I go to the next thing about design, before I leave this, if you look up here, that's what we defaulted to, but those other ones that pulled down, they're also up here. So like a block border, so you can see. And that's where now I can change these. Yeah. So I can make those smaller if I wish. I can do all these different ones. Diamonds, double diamonds, etc. So there's lots here to choose from and 2 ways to get at it. Let's go back to long horizontal. And I want to go back into the layout, and I want to get rid of the sashing. For the purposes of showing you what I'm going to do, I don't need the sashing. So I'm just going to take the sashing out, and all I have to do is pull this to 0. And so sashing is gone. So I have borders and I have sashing. Okay, so that brings us to design, and this is really where the fun begins. Now there's several things going on here. There's the block tools. Set block, erase block, rotate it, flip it, adjust, symmetry, eyedropper, and open the library. Okay, I'm going to start with open the library because you see here I have a few blocks that I have had in this part, and I can get rid of those if I want them, but I can add more. And here you go. This is going to blow your mind because there are so many different blocks. You just get lost in the whole design process, and there's more and more and more and more. And these open up, and just, you name it, it's on here. And as I said, you can buy additional block packages to add to this. So there is no lack of blocks. There's even foundation pieced. And so these will show you how, basically letter set here, how to make it using blocks. Yeah, so there's a lot. Now, I can go to my favorite blocks. I don't have anything in there. Current sketchbook. That's what you're seeing over here. Remember I talked about the sketchbook up here that you can add things to? Well, at some point I added to my sketchbook these particular blocks. You can do a search for blocks by note card or category. If you go by note card, you're looking for a keyword. And that one didn't have a keyword. I don't usually do it by note card. I usually go by category. And this does have different things. You can have holiday, events, say you want a birthday, search. And here it's going to come up with all the ones it feels are appropriate to birthdays. So you can play around with that and find things. You don't have to just look through everything. You can put in something very specific. Once you've got that, you just go up here and you can add it to sketchbook. Let's add the birthday present. Add to sketchbook. And close. So there it is. It's right here for me to use. Okay, so let's say I want to use a 9 or this star. All I need to do is click on it, and then wherever I want to put it, whichever the location of that whole block. Now this is the whole block, okay, not bits and pieces. I make sure I have set block clicked. I put my arrow over one of the blocks, and there it is. However, remember, I set this up as 6-inch blocks. This would be very tiny. You'd be working with tiny little pieces because you have to use little pieces to make this particular block. So how do you get around that? Well, you'd make your blocks bigger, or you make your layout bigger. Or you could make it from scratch. So let's go to another feature, erase block. Click on that, and then just click on whatever blocks you want to erase, and they're gone. And that's how rotate works too, and flip. Adjust is a little bit more complicated. I never use it. Symmetry, if I want to put one block in, let's go back here, set block. Click symmetry. And that's not how it works. Okay, this tool works best with horizontal layout without sashing. Each click of the mouse will automatically rotate and flip all the blocks in the quilt. 16 variations are possible. Okay, so that wasn't a good example to put there. So let's just add another one. Let's see what happens with symmetry now. Now you're not going to see anything because they're the same on all sides. So let's erase this. Let's go set block. Let's put one there. Let's take the 9 patch, put it there, put it there. Let's try symmetry now and see what happens. Nothing. Okay. Well, I don't use it a lot. I'm sure what it does, it will flip things around. I just don't have the right ones in there for it. But I told you, this is not a tutorial. This is me stumbling my way through. Anyways, you have that potential, and you can read about that. Right within the program is exactly how to use it. But let's go back to the erase block. Let's get rid of these, and let's say I wanted to make a simple star block. I happen to have in my library, which I pulled out of the main library, a half square triangle. So let's put a half square triangle and a half square triangle and a half square, half square, half square, half square, half square, half square. Okay, well, that's an interesting shape, but not what I want. I want a star. So what I need to do is rotate these blocks around. So let's click on rotate and go. There we go. And then this one. Oops, that's not the way I want to go. That way. That way. And that way. And there we have it. I've got my star. Now, let's say I want to add something into the center of that. I don't really have, well, no, because this is going to make it too small. If I pick this one and put it here, this is what I'll get. Well, I could do something like that. And I could play with rotation on here. So you see the danger of how much fun you can have. Now, this just defaulted to these colors, but let's say I want to change the color. So I can go into fabric tools, and I have two choices. I have fabrics and colors. Now there's a whole bunch of default fabrics, but you can also add fabrics to this. Now, a lot of the manufacturers of fabrics have their fabrics in a file you can download, and then you can incorporate it into your files here. through the library system. Now, I really haven't talked about the library system much, but let's go up here where it says Open Library. And you've seen this a moment ago. Now, it looks very much like the block library, but this one is filled with fabrics. And I don't have one to show you, but if you can get one of those samples of fabrics from a manufacturer of fabrics, you can find it in how to do this in their help files. Drop it in, and then if you see something you really like, I probably have most of these already in here. Let's see, and you see there's more. This is the default palette, but I have a yellow palette, an orange palette, an orange, red orange, coral and salmon. These all come built in to the program, Manufacturer Basics. Okay, so here's some of your major timeless treasures. Some of these I may have added at one time. Others do. It does come with a certain number of these. So let's say I really like this one. Let's pick a couple. I like that one. And if I hold down my command key on a Mac, I'm not sure what it might be, the option key on a, or I don't know, they have an option key, control key on a Windows program. I'm operating in a Mac, by the way, with this, but this program will work in either Mac or Windows. And I like this one. Okay. I'm going to add them to the sketchbook. And it will take them a minute to appear. And there they are there. So now I have fabrics. So up here, because I went into the fabrics toolbar, I have paintbrush, and click that to make sure it's highlighted. And then I just click on one of my colors, and there we have it. And I can do this, and I can do this. So essentially I'm painting it with the fabrics, which gives you a real sense of what your quilt might look like if you have fabrics that are close or the exact fabrics that you're going to be using. But maybe you don't. Maybe you just want to use colors and see what a color scheme is going to like. It works the same way. Make sure the paintbrush is highlighted, and then click on a color and click on a space. And there are many colors in this palette. And if I've got a color I don't like, I can color over it. And it will keep up here on this bar the most recent colors or fabrics, if you're in the fabrics mode, that you have been working with. So you don't need to go and hunt for it down here again. You can just pick it up from up here and have some fun. Excuse me. So this is a lot of fun to play around with. And probably if you ever get your hands on EQ8, the best thing for you to do is just to play for a while. But then for me, on a needs to know basis, I will look in the books that I have bought. I will look online. I will look in their explanations for things and work with them. So I want to show you, I was just picking random things here. Let's go up to the top and let's open a project that I've saved. Open project. This will give me a list of EQ8 projects that I have saved, and it shows me my most recent ones I opened, and one of them is my Quilt of Valor Stars. Now, this is what is in there, but I have many things. Notice these arrows down here. As I played with it, I saved them to the sketchbook when I got to a certain point, just to have. And so in a way, you can see the evolution of my quilt. This was another one I was playing around with. All of those are in my sketchbook. But let's go back to my Quilt of Valor, this one. So I've got that. So all I need to do is, now I always get this mixed up. I just click on OK. Now it says work table quilt is not in the sketchbook. Okay, so I'm going to add it to my sketchbook. It asks for that. And say changes to untitled. No. And let's close out of here. Now, I don't have anything showing up here, but let's go to new quilt. And let's go to the sketchbook. And notice they have quilts and they have other things too, but we're just talking about quilts right now. And let's find my quilt. And there it is. And I click on edit and it populates it. Now you can see everything that I did in designing this. Now I'm not going to alter this one because you've already seen how to alter it, but I could go in with the paintbrush, change my fabrics or change my colors. I can go into fabrics and do the same. I can go up here to block tools. Oops, I didn't want to do that. Undo, can't undo, okay. Didn't want to click that so quickly. Go back to design, here we go. And go back to block tool and I can change my blocks around. And you see here, these are all blocks I was fooling with when I was designing this quilt. It keeps them in the sketchbook or in the project actually, because I saved it as a project. So there you go. Now, when you have this all done, it's all designed and whatnot, you'll of course want a hard copy of it, a printout. So there are various ways you can print this out. And down here under tips, it explains what each one of these means. Quilt, yardage, block, templates, foundation, rotary cutting, embroidery, photo, print setup. Okay, so let's go to quilt. We're clicking on that. It comes up with a screen. I can give it a name. It already has one, so I don't need to edit it. Stars and leaves, I called it. And it has some other options here. I usually leave most of these as they appear, as the default. Before I print it out, though, I go into preview. And I want to see what's going to look like on a piece of 8.5 by 11. You notice here, it's got my title that I put in earlier. It's got the overall size of this quilt. It's 78 by 78 inches finished. And that's what you have. You can zoom in on parts of it. Or maybe. There you go. And zoom out or fit the screen. We'll put it back. So once I'm happy with the information that's there, I can either print from here, and I'm going to cancel the print job though, because I already have a copy of this. So you have all that. Well, then you're probably curious about yardage. This will show you how much fabric you need to create this quilt. It defaults to with the 44 to 45 inches, but it can go smaller, it can go larger. You can even get a wide back in there. You could even do fat quarters only, and that will tell you how many fat quarters you're going to need for this quilt. It defaults the seam allowance at 1/4 inch, 0.25, which for most cases, that's what we'd be leaving it at. So let's go into preview again, and this is what you see. Each one of the individual fabrics that we put into that design are shown here. It tells you the number of patches you need, the yardage that you're going to need, and yes, it's in yards. This is not a metric program. So it needs, for example, this particular fabric, we need 1.1 7/8 yards, so almost 2 yards, and etc. for the rest down here. Now, fabric name, if you picked up the fabrics, which I did with these from Northcott's website, because this is Northcott fabric, it carried with it the actual number that's printed on the selvage for each one of these fabrics. So that's very handy when you're going to go out and do some shopping for what you need for fabric. Notice here, the estimate for this fabric assumes that long strips are pieced. So yeah, you might want to round up. That's what I would do. Instead of buying 1 7/8 yards of fabric, I would buy 2. And here I would probably buy 2.5. I'd probably buy 1 yard here, 1/2 yard here, and 1.5 yards here. Now, yes, it might be a little bit overkill, but I make mistakes. I would rather have more than enough fabric than become short on it. And of course, I can print this all out if I wish to. Okay, so let's get out of that and block. Now, block says, please click directly on a block first, then select the printing option again. Okay, so I want to see how to make, let's say, well, these are half square triangles, so that's pretty easy. But let's say this block right here. Notice its highlight tells me how big that block is. Finished 6 by 6. So we go to block, and I get a very familiar dialog box. This shows you that it's a half square triangle and what I'm actually using in it. I can customize the block. I can do some other things here that I'm not going to explain right now because, again, these are not things that I usually use. And let's preview it. And so there, it's showing me my block. Fits one page. Now, of course, on a half square triangle, that's pretty basic. But if you had a more complicated block, you might want to see that. Let's get out of that. Close. Templates I've never used, but let's say you want to do it sort of, you had a very complicated block. Well, you could have it make it into templates. So for this half square triangle, which you probably wouldn't use a template for, you have 2 A pieces. They're like this. It draws in the quarter seam allowance as well. Put this on something like a piece of stiff cardboard, or better yet, template plastic, and you could cut it out. Again, this would be better utilized with something much more complex than a half square triangle. But you can see the potential here. Foundation. If you wanted to do one of your blocks as in foundation paper piecing, you can. And here it is. Now again, I picked a simple block, but you get the idea. Here's your first piece goes down. There's where your second piece goes down. It's drawn in your quarter seam allowance. You could print these pieces all out, lay your fabric on them as you would for foundation paper piecing, and away you go. And you did see before in the library that there are a lot of very complicated blocks that you could select and do as foundation paper piecing. Okay, let's get out of that and go to rotary cutting. Now this is going to tell you how to cut your blocks. So let's do preview, and here you go. Half square triangle shows you what it looks like, and this diagram, which when I first saw these diagrams, it confused me, but basically what they're showing here is that you are going to be making a block, a square. Well, to make half square triangles, you need 2 squares, 1 square in this fabric, 1 square in this fabric, and you are going to be cutting them, cutting the squares 6 7/8 inches. And that's what's showing. It's a square, 6 7/8 inches. And then you would, lay right sides together, draw a line down the from diagonal to diagonal, and away you would go with it. Now, again, this is a very simplistic block, so, you don't need this for it. But on other things, it will show you how much yardage you need. Now, I'll be honest, I only use that as a guide. I find it sometimes with more complex blocks, it's a little confusing, but it's a good guide. Embroidery doesn't apply, photo doesn't apply for what we're doing here, so I'm not even going to talk about those for now. Okay, so there you go. All these things, new quilt, the layout of the quilt, if you want borders or not, and how you want to design it in terms of the blocks. And there's other tools along here too that you can play around with. There are layering. Let's say you want to do some thread painting or some embroidery. You can go to a different layer and let's see, thread tools, color, pick a style, and you really can't see it on here, but I could draw all over this with yeah, it's very hard to see, but there is a line there that it's doing. That's another thing you'd have to read about because I've never used it, but that's on layer 2. If I go to layer 1, those would disappear. You wouldn't see them. I can also just close the eye off and they won't show up either. Now, how do I get rid of the layer? I don't know, but I'm not going to worry about it. Okay. And there's one's photo tools, and this is basically where you can import a photo. Say you were doing a memory quilt or something, a memorial quilt, you wanted pictures of the people, you could import a JPEG into this, and then you could drop it into a block and see what that would look like. So there's a lot of things you can do with this program, and that's all under creating a new quilt. So let's go back to the very beginning here. Just quickly, if you want to see start a quilt project, here you go. They have several pre-made quilts. You want a New York Beauty? There it is. And there are different variations on it too, if you click on the little arrow keys down here. So you can see how this could be fun to work with as well. Making a t-shirt quilt, hey, they've got a layout for that. In fact, several layouts for a t-shirt quilt as well. Table runners, we've got table runners. Yeah. Now, the one thing you have to remember with EQ8, which I didn't realize when I first bought it, you can't print out a pattern per se with instructions, step-by-step instructions. It doesn't do that, but it does help you do the designing part of it. And they have these tip of the day as well here that you can work through that may help you with the program too. Over here, they have Learn. And they have help articles, lessons, video tutorials, classes, quick start guide, reference manual. So there's all of your resources right there. Product details, that's just the stuff about copyright, the version, everything like that, and how to contact EQ if you run into problems with anything. So let's get back to get started, and let's go up here to this. We were on the quilt work table. Let's go to the block work table just so you get a look at it. Now here's where you could draw out your own original block. This is something you need to fool around with. If I want to draw a line, I make sure I click that and I have a starting point, and then I drag this to wherever, click, and then drag it to another spot, and then click on that and drag it to another spot, etc. So you get the idea. It's a drawing tool for making maybe something very unique, and you have, like, you can edit them, you can put them in a grid, you can arc, make an arc. How's an arc work? I'm not sure if I've ever used arc. Oh yeah, I use. Pull it around. And then when you're done that, you import it to your sketchbook, and you can pull it up into your library and use it as a colorize it and put it into your quilt. Image work table. This is where you import an image, and I don't have one to import here. But I want, and then you can work with it as well. And maybe if you're making a memorial quilt, you could drop it into the quilt from there. And you have various tools you can use. Now you can open the library, and they have some preset images, and they organize them by color, the predominant color. They also have theme. So if I want florals, I have some florals. If I want landscapes, letters and text, that kind of stuff. So yeah, my favorite photos, I don't have anything. Current sketchbook, I don't have anything in it. And but because I would have to add anything that I saw there that I want to use in the quilt, I'd have to add it to the sketchbook. Think of your sketchbook as a holding ground for all the various elements that are going into your quilt. That's what that is for. Okay, and of course you have print and export as well. Works very much the same. Some of these other tools, well, this is zoom in, zoom out, fit to refresh the screen, fit to work table. This one, I'm not sure, it's blocked out here. Let's go back to the quilt work table. Not all these work in all of these elements up here. show grid. Yeah, does not do anything. So it probably works in one of these other ones. Well, it does work in one of these other ones. Okay, so that's basically how I design my quilts or get an idea of them. In a sense, it's an electronic version of a piece of grid paper that you move elements around in and put together to create your shapes, to create your blocks, and add other elements to your quilt, color, etc., and fabric. It's a very powerful tool. It's a very expensive tool, and it has a very steep learning curve. So as I said, you might want to watch a few tutorials or videos on YouTube about using EQ8 and see how other people use it before you invest in something like this, because it is expensive. And it's going to take, it's not just an investment of money, but it's an investment of time as well. But many people absolutely love it. Now, can you get other programs that do similar things like this that are cheaper and easier to learn? Yes, you can. Many of them are apps for phones. You just do a search on the internet for quilt design applications or programs, and you'll probably find a variety. And again, try out the trial versions of those first to see if that fits your learning curve before you invest any more money into it. This is not for everyone. There's other things out there. There's like those block cards that you can get that look like a deck of cards that you can lay all out and play around with different block designs. There's of course the old-fashioned pencil, ruler, and grid paper. You can always use that too. So it's whatever helps you design what you want to design. So I hope that gave you a little bit of insight into what EQ8 is all about. As I said, it was not an extensive tutorial, not even close. And it's just basically how I use it. And I know there is so much more I could do with it. If I need to, then I'll learn how to do that on a need-to-know basis. For the time right now, I'm happy with what I am doing with it. Okay, I hope you found that useful. Okay, so I hope that gave you at least a taste of what EQ8 is all about if you've never used it before. If you are a seasoned user, you probably ignored me completely and you know everything that I did that was half-assed backwards, I am sure, with the program. And as I said in the video as well, there are many YouTube channels out there that have instructions on how to use the various aspects of EQ8. So, you know, if you're serious about getting this program, because it is an investment in both time and money, you may want to watch some of those videos to get a better sense of what it is. I only gave you the bare basics of EQ8. Okay, so fabric came. Everybody loves a fabric haul. I ordered this from a company that's in Hamilton, Ontario, which is about 2 hours or an hour and a half east of us. It's probably just an hour and a half east of us, unless there's traffic, which there always is. And it's called Spack Craft. Now, I reviewed that very recently, but I'd never bought from them before. I designed her quilt. Actually, her quilt is a Quilt of Valor design, because I designed one for her, and then I showed her the Quilt of Valor design, which they were very similar, but somewhat different. She liked the Quilt of Valor one. She wanted that one. And I went, okay, fine. All the work is done, so might as well. And I think she really liked the fabrics. I do too. The O Canada line 13 of the O Canada series from Northcott. They've really gone this year a little bit away from the reds and more into sort of oranges and browns, more fall colors. And my sister's quilt, she wanted it to be earth tone, so this fit the bill. But of course I had some of this fabric, but I didn't have enough for her quilt, so I ordered more from Spack Craft Fabrics. There's her business card. And I will try to remember to put their link in the show notes below. So when I opened it up, I found several things. I found sticky page markers, which I do use. So I like that. They also gave me a coupon code for 10% off my next order, which I can't show you the code, but that's, oops, sorry, but that's very nice. And I don't know if it has an expiry date. I don't think it does. Nope. And they gave me this, a gridded design booklet. I mean, grid paper, okay, in a book. I mean, will I use it? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know, but still, it's something for nothing. Like, really, I thought. And you know, that makes people come back to you. Now, the other thing, though, that was very interesting is on my invoice at all the fabrics that I ordered. And up here, they wrote a note. And this was the wide back fabric that I ordered. And they wrote, torn edge per cutting policy. So they're a place that doesn't cut wide back. They tear it. Okay. But it says plus 3 inches to account for distressed edges. Because when you tear fabric, you're going to have fraying edges. Right? And a lot of people get upset about that. You know, they figure they're getting screwed because they're not getting what they ordered in terms of the size of it, because they tore it, and so some of it is unusable. So they must have had complaints about that, or they were aware of that fact. And so they made sure, you know, that they added 3 inches. I ordered 3 meters, so I got 3 meters, 3 inches, because they added it on for that. Now, this is more than enough backing fabric for that project. And actually, I do tear it too. When I put it on the long arm, spread it all out, I put a cut it one end of it because I have too much to work with, and I tear it, I rip it, because 3 meters of fabric hanging over a long arm, you're trying to cut it with a pair of scissors and be straight, that's not going to happen. So this doesn't bother me at all, but I really appreciate the note. And they also wrote, thank you for your order. Happy sewing, Lisa. Lisa is the person. Lisa's the one that signed the coupon code. So let us see the fabrics up front in person. I just pulled them out of the bag. So here's one of the fabrics. This is going to be background on the quilt. And you can see it's mottled with a little bit of orange in the browns and the beiges and everything in it. This is also modeled, but this is going to be part of one of the blocks in there. And I ordered 2 meters of all of these. Then the one with leaves, the maple leaves. This is called medium-sized maple leaves, because I've got another one that goes in this pattern, and it's maple leaves too, but they're smaller ones, smaller print. And then the backing fabric, or no, that's not the backing. This is one of the other prints that goes into it. You can see there's a theme here, but my sister likes these colors. I do too.
Yeah, they're quite nice.
They're nice.
They're not, they're sort of a rust color, right?
Yeah. Rust and orangey, dark oranges, and there's a touch of red.
Rust, my mom would call that terracotta.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's got that. And this is the backing that I'll use. I bought 3 meters of that. And apparently now I have 3 meters, 3 inches of that. So yeah. So I think it's going to look really nice when I get it all together. And just to remind you what that pattern looks like, this is it right there. So you can see all those fabrics I just showed you are in it. Now, my sister wants this for a full-size bed, like a double, not a queen. And I said to her, well, how much of a drape do you want on it? She says, well, she didn't. This was kind of a weird answer. She said, I don't want too much. I don't want it really right onto the floor, she says, because the mice will probably chew it. You're sleeping with mice. First of all, my sister's not a real fan of mice. I mean, she's not the jump up on a chair and scream kind of person about it, but she's not that fond of them. And second of all, I don't think I'd be fond of sleeping. This is a cottage, and it's very rustic. That this quilt's going to be on the bed.
Have they not heard of traps and poison?
I don't know. It just seemed like a very curious comment to make. I don't think she was joking either. Because she wasn't laughing about it. So okay. So I told her this actually works out as 78 by 78. It's a square. But I said to her, once I have the top done, you can take a look at it. And if you think it needs to be a little bigger, I can always add a border to another border to it. So we'll see how that works out with that. But anyways, yeah, I was very happy that the process of picking the fabrics and the pattern went very smoothly and very quickly, because I didn't think it was going to work that way. But it did. So now I've got my fabric. Now I can get going on this. Okay. So any other things you want to talk about? Anything you want to bring up? Anything you want to show? Anything discuss?
No, not really.
No. Okay, we're out of topics. Oh, yeah, I know. We haven't done the bag thing yet. We need to do the bag thing. I don't know when we're going to get to it. We've been busy with a lot of other things. And when I say we, Walter is what I mean. Doing other things that don't constitute. What are you staring at?
I'm looking at something.
What?
Just something.
Squirrel. We're still
I'm
recording.
looking at your pattern.
Yeah, what about it?
Well, look at it.
It's beautiful.
You've got the leaf going one way this way, right? So then you got it going that way.
Yeah.
And you got it going upside down.
Yeah, I did.
There, right? You've got one upside down there, and why that one's still going? And why is that one going the same way as that one?
Because it is.
Oh, okay.
Because it's opposite the one at the top.
Okay.
The left and the right one are opposite each other.
Okay, all right.
On the top.
All right.
I suppose I could put it the other way around, but I'm not going to. Okay. Well, when I lay it out, I may flip it around. You know, you're never happy. Jeez. Just once. Just once. I would like him to look at one of my quilts and go, oh my God, that's absolutely positively perfect and beautiful and gorgeous and should have a big fluffy ribbon on it. Anyways, well, thank you. My fault. I asked him if he had any comments. Quit staring at the quilt. Take it off the screen. Okay, so that's it for us. But if you have suggestions for what we could talk about here on So Chatty or show you or whatever, please send them, put them in the comments below or send them to me, a quick email message, and we'll see what we can do with all of that. Okay, so hope everybody has a good weekend. For you that are Canadian, it's the long weekend here in Canada for Canada Day. Enjoy, and maybe the weather will have cooled down here a little bit, but we still want it to be nice on the long weekend. So have a good one. We'll see you later. Bye for now.
Bye for now.